In November 1942, North Africa's deserts revealed a new logistical force. American units landing in French, Morocco and Algeria for Operation Torch brought a light 4x4 truck, the Jeep. German and Italian observers, trained to count enemy vehicles to measure strength, saw these small trucks in numbers surpassing entire Axis formations. With a range of 300 miles on one tank, Jeeps rolled onto beaches, joined convoys, and navigated dusty trails, carrying reconnaissance teams and staff officers with steady precision. German officers schooled in tallying trucks to gauge enemy power found their calculations unraveling. By 1943, the United States replaced Jeeps faster than Axis forces could track or destroy them. The number that matters is volume, over 600,000 Jeeps built by 1945. This torrent of vehicles hinted at an industrial might. Germany had not foreseen sustaining mobile landings across vast oceans. Weighing just over 1 ton, the Jeep loaded swiftly onto landing craft, ensuring signals and command units moved on the first day. To German commands, it seemed the Americans could repeat this mobile force endlessly, each Jeep a quiet signal of deeper reserves. Under General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim in Tunisia, German staff watched American units new to combat but relentless in motion outpace Axis predictions. The constraint was Axis supply lines. Their trucks tied to fragile Mediterranean routes could not match the American flow from Atlantic shipping. While German panzer divisions valued elite mobility, the Americans motorized everything: infantry, artillery, observers, engineers. This was no spearhead. It was an army on wheels. Engine overhaul after 50 hours at full throttle. Standardized parts from Willys and Ford allowed mechanics with common tools to keep Jeeps running. German observers, rationing their own scarce cross-country vehicles, saw Americans treat Jeeps as expendable, abandoning damaged ones certain more would arrive. By mid-1943, as Allies pushed toward Tunis, the Jeep's presence signaled a stark reality. American logistics sustained mobility, where Axis forces stumbled. By mid-1943, as Allied forces pushed toward Tunis, the Jeep's presence signaled a stark reality. American logistics sustained mobility where Axis forces stumbled. The summer of 1943 brought Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily, and the Jeep's role sharpened into focus. German intelligence, monitoring Allied movements, saw the same light 4x4 trucks that flooded North Africa, now landing on Sicilian shores. Under General George Patton's 7th Army, American units moved with speed, their reconnaissance and liaison teams darting along rocky paths and narrow trails. The Jeep's range of 300 miles on rough terrain allowed patrols to probe German defenses faster than Axis horse-drawn or foot-bound units could react. German commanders stretched thin by the Eastern Front, and Allied air raids on Italian ports could not match this mobility. Their own light vehicles, like the Kübelwagen, were fewer in number and less standardized, often halted by mismatched parts or fuel shortages. The American system, by contrast, relied on crated Jeeps shipped across the Atlantic, assembled in theater, and deployed without delay, ensuring a steady flow of replacements. German field reports from Sicily described American artillery observers and staff officers moving freely, even under fire, in Jeeps that seemed to multiply overnight. Captured documents revealed a striking American attitude. Jeeps were issued like rifles, not hoarded like tanks. Their standardized design meant a damaged Jeep could be stripped for parts, keeping others operational. Routine maintenance after 2,000 miles of operation. This flexibility confounded German officers who preserved their vehicles with care, rationing them for critical tasks. By September 1943, as Allies landed at Salerno and Anzio in Operation Avalanche, the Jeep's persistence forced a German reassessment. Axis forces under Field Marshal Albert Kesselring faced an enemy whose every echelon from corps headquarters to forward scouts remained mobile. German attempts to disrupt this by targeting Jeeps proved futile. Allied ports like Palermo and Naples brimmed with replacements either unloaded from ships or assembled from crates. The number that matters is resilience. American units absorbed losses without losing speed. To German observers, the Jeep was more than a vehicle. It was evidence of industrial depth. The United States could produce and deliver these trucks at a scale Germany could not match, especially as Allied bombing battered Axis factories. In Sicily, American jeeps towed small trailers, carried signals equipment, and moved wounded soldiers from forward areas, multiplying their tactical value. German staff, analyzing after-action reports, noted that American commanders visited front lines more often, their jeeps enabling rapid trips across broken terrain. This contrasted with Axis practice, where light vehicles were often reserved for elite units or high-priority missions. The American approach, motorizing even routine tasks, allowed faster redeployment of entire divisions, outpacing German counterattacks. German officers cursed jeeps swarming Sicily's roads, tying Allied units together. By late 1943, as the Italian campaign ground on the jeep's presence across multiple fronts, confirmed to German intelligence that this was no temporary surge, but a permanent feature of American warfare. The broader American logistical system amplified the jeep's impact. Atlantic convoys, protected by Allied naval and air power, delivered vehicles and parts in volumes that Axis supply lines vulnerable to Mediterranean interdiction could not rival. While German forces struggled to maintain mixed transport, horses, trucks, and captured vehicles, the Americans standardized their motor pool with the jeep as its lightest, most versatile component. This standardization meant that a mechanic in Sicily could repair a jeep with the same tools and parts used in North Africa, streamlining maintenance across theaters. For Germany, the lesson was grim. The United States had solved the industrial problem of mass motorization, producing enough jeeps to treat them as expendable. By the end of 1943, as Allied forces pushed up the Italian peninsula, German planners began to see the jeep not just as a tactical tool, but as a symbol of an opponent whose industrial output could sustain relentless mobility campaign after campaign without pause. By late 1943, as Allied forces pushed up the Italian peninsula, German planners saw the jeep as a symbol of relentless American mobility campaign after campaign. By June 1944, Normandy's beaches confirmed the jeep's permanence in United States warfare. Under General Dwight Eisenhower's command, American forces staged thousands of jeeps in the United Kingdom alongside tank transporters and cargo trucks for Operation Overlord. German reconnaissance, peering across the English Channel, glimpsed a logistical machine far beyond their own. The jeep, with a range of 300 miles on rough terrain, towed trailers, carried medics, and linked signals units, keeping every American division fluid. German planners like those under Field Marshal Erwin Rommel assumed transoceanic powers would be slowed by long supply lines and road-bound transport. Instead, American units broke out from Normandy, their jeeps enabling rapid shifts along battered roads and hedgerows. German officers cursed jeeps swarming every Allied advance, tying units together seamlessly. The myth that a transoceanic power would be sluggish collapsed as jeeps assembled from crates or unloaded from ships kept American corps moving faster than German counterattacks could form. The jeep's versatility amplified its impact. It served as command car, ambulance, scout vehicle, and signals platform, stretching the value of each unit delivered. German forces, strained by the Eastern Front, and Allied air attacks on European industry could not produce a comparable stream of standardized light vehicles. Their transport, often horses, captured vehicles, or limited trucks, slowed reactions to Allied landings. In Normandy, American jeeps moved artillery observers to forward positions, enabling precise fire adjustments, while staff officers used them to visit front lines, maintaining tight command. Routine inspections after 1,000 miles of rough driving. This mobility let American divisions exploit gaps in German defenses, outpacing Axis units reliant on slower transport. German reports from 1944 noted the jeep's ubiquity, describing reconnaissance patrols pushing deep navigating terrain where heavier vehicles stalled. The number that matters is adaptability. Jeeps filled multiple roles without requiring specialized variants. German pre-war doctrine emphasized elite mobile divisions, believing concentrated mechanized forces would win by destroying enemy transport. The American approach from 1942 to 1944 forced a revision. The United States motorized not just spearheads, but the daily operations of entire field armies. German attempts to disrupt American mobility by targeting jeeps failed. Allied ports from Cherbourg to Antwerp became hubs where fresh jeeps arrived, either driven off ships or assembled from crates. This logistical depth meant destroying a few dozen jeeps did not slow American operations. Replacements were already in theatre. For German commanders, this was a strategic shock. An enemy that could lose vehicles and remain mobile challenged their core assumptions. By mid-1944, as American forces broke out from Normandy toward Paris, German staff had to treat United States mobility as an enduring trait, not a temporary surge. The human perspective underscored this shift. Captured German reports from Normandy described American units moving with speed and flexibility. Axis forces could not match. Junior officers noted American commanders riding in jeeps appeared at forward positions, often coordinating attacks with precision. German headquarters struggled to replicate. American drivers and mechanics, interrogated by German forces, described jeeps as routine equipment, easily repaired or replaced due to standardized parts. Routine maintenance after 2,000 miles of operation. This contrasted with German practice, where light vehicles were reserved for critical missions and repaired with whatever parts were available. The Jeep's simple four-cylinder engine and rugged chassis allowed field repairs, keeping American units operational in Normandy's chaos. To German observers, the Jeep's casual use signaled industrial confidence the United States could risk and lose vehicles because its factories ensured a steady supply. By late 1944, as Allied forces pushed toward the Rhine, the Jeep's role was undeniable. It enabled American corps to redeploy faster than German divisions could respond, especially as Axis fuel and vehicle shortages worsened. German intelligence noted the Jeep's role in enabling American units to maintain cohesion across vast distances from reconnaissance to supply runs. The vehicle's light weight, just over 1 ton, let it navigate poor roads, ensuring command and scout elements stayed effective. For Germany, the Jeep's endless presence forced a grim realization. Industrial depth and standardization turned a small vehicle into a strategic asset, shifting the operational balance as American forces surged forward. By late 1944, the Jeep's relentless presence defined Allied operations across Western Europe. American forces under General Omar Bradley's First Army used jeeps to keep staff groups, artillery observers, and engineer teams mobile, navigating partially repaired roads with ease. The vehicle's range of 300 miles on rough terrain enabled rapid redeployment of divisions, outpacing German counterattacks, slowed by fuel shortages and mixed transport. Captured German reports from Belgium and Holland described American units shifting positions, with a speed Axis commanders reliant on horses and scarce trucks could not match. Weighing just over 1 ton, the Jeep traversed muddy tracks and narrow lanes, carrying signals, equipment, medical teams, and reconnaissance patrols, where heavier vehicles faltered. This versatility ensured American corps maintained momentum, exploiting gaps in German lines during the push toward the Rhine. The number that matters is scale. Over 600,000 Jeeps built by 1945 sustained mobility across multiple fronts. German field officers reporting from the Ardennes in December 1944 noted American Jeeps moving liaison officers and forward observers, enabling precise artillery fire and swift command decisions. Prisoner interrogations revealed American units treated Jeeps as standard issue, not scarce assets, with damaged vehicles quickly repaired or replaced using common parts, routine maintenance after 2,000 miles of operation. This contrasted with German practice, where light vehicles like the Kübelwagen were rationed and often sidelined by parts shortages. American mechanics described stripping damaged Jeeps for spares, a process simplified by standardized designs, ensuring units stayed mobile. To German staff, this casual approach signaled an industrial depth that allowed the United States to absorb losses without losing speed. German attempts to disrupt Allied mobility by targeting Jeeps failed. Ports like Antwerp and Le Havre brimmed with replacements either shipped whole or assembled from crates. The Jeep's tactical impact deepened as Allied forces crossed the Rhine in March 1945. American divisions, supported by Jeeps, moved engineers to bridge sites, supply clerks to forward depots, and commanders to front lines, maintaining operational tempo. German officers watched jeeps swarm their collapsing defenses, tying Allied units together seamlessly. German intelligence reports from 1945 highlighted the jeep's role in enabling American corps to shift faster than Axis units could regroup, especially as fuel and vehicle shortages crippled German mobility. The jeep's ability to tow trailers, carry wounded, or mount radios multiplied its value, allowing a single vehicle to serve multiple roles without modification. This flexibility meant American planners could assume light motorization in every operation, while German planners under General Alfred Jodl faced the reality of horse-drawn transport, slowing their responses. The human perspective reinforced this disparity. Captured German documents described American units using jeeps to maintain cohesion across vast distances, from reconnaissance patrols to supply runs. American commanders traveling in jeeps visited forward positions, frequently coordinating attacks with precision. German headquarters struggled to achieve. American drivers, interrogated by Axis forces, spoke of jeeps as common tools, easily repaired due to uniform parts from Willys and Ford. Engine overhaul after 50 hours at full throttle. This contrasted with German units where light vehicles were reserved for elite formations and repaired with makeshift solutions. The jeep's rugged design allowed it to operate in rain-soaked fields or bombed-out towns, keeping American operations fluid. To German observers, the jeep's endless supply underscored an industrial truth: the United States could produce and deliver vehicles at a scale Axis factories battered by Allied air raids could not match. By early 1945, the jeep's omnipresence forced German commands to rethink their defensive strategies. American forces pushing deeper into Germany, under General George Patton's Third Army, used jeeps to maintain fluidity, linking forward units with rear echelons across ruined infrastructure. The vehicle's range of 300 miles on rough terrain allowed reconnaissance patrols to probe German positions, while staff officers coordinated rapid advances. German intelligence analyzing Allied operations noted that jeeps enabled American divisions to exploit breakthroughs faster than Axis units could reform. Weighing just over 1 ton, the jeep navigated debris-strewn roads, carrying medics, engineers, and signals teams where German transport, often horse-drawn, stalled. This mobility gap meant American corps could sustain offensive momentum even as German forces struggled to hold defensive lines. The number that matters is resilience. Jeeps absorbed combat losses without slowing operations. German attempts to counter American mobility focused on disrupting supply lines, but these efforts faltered. Luftwaffe raids on Allied ports and airfields aimed to destroy jeep stockpiles. But the United States Atlantic convoys delivered replacements faster than German aircraft could interdict. Captured reports from General Hasso von Manteuffel's staff in 1945 described American jeeps appearing in every sector, from the Ruhr to Bavaria, supporting rapid redeployments. Routine maintenance after 2,000 miles of operation. German commanders tried prioritizing anti-vehicle tactics, targeting jeeps with small arms fire or mines, but the sheer volume of replacements rendered these efforts ineffective. American service troops using standardized parts repaired or rebuilt jeeps in theater, ensuring no unit stayed immobile for long. To German observers, this logistical depth was a grim revelation. Destroying a jeep meant little when another arrived within days. The adversary perspective crystallized in 1945. German officers, facing relentless Allied advances, cursed jeeps flooding every front, outrunning Axis defenses. This mobility forced Germany to spread its dwindling resources thinner as American units shifted faster than German intelligence could track. The jeep's versatility, towing anti-tank guns, carrying wounded or mounting radios, meant American commanders could adapt tactics on the fly, while German units, limited by scarce vehicles, reacted sluggishly. Captured documents showed German staff frustration. Their pre-war focus on elite panzer divisions had not prepared them for an enemy that motorized every function from supply to reconnaissance. The jeep's light weight allowed it to operate where German trucks bogged down, giving American forces an edge in fluid battles. This operational advantage, sustained by industrial output, left German planners scrambling to counter an enemy that seemed to move without pause. The human element highlighted the jeep's impact. American drivers and mechanics questioned by German interrogators described jeeps as expendable, with damaged vehicles, cannibalized for parts, or replaced from port stockpiles. This contrasted with German units, where light vehicles were hoarded and repairs delayed by parts shortages. The jeep's simple four-cylinder engine and rugged chassis allowed field repairs under harsh conditions, keeping American units operational. To German soldiers, the sight of jeeps darting through ruined towns signaled an opponent with endless resources. By April 1945, as American forces encircled the Ruhr, the jeep's role in sustaining rapid advances underscored a broader truth. The United States had turned a small vehicle into a strategic tool through sheer industrial might. By April 1945, the jeep's role in Allied victories was unmistakable. American forces under General Dwight Eisenhower's Supreme Command used jeeps to drive deep into Germany, linking scattered units across rivers and bombed-out towns. The vehicle's range of 300 miles on rough terrain enabled rapid pursuit of retreating German forces, with reconnaissance teams probing for weaknesses. German reports captured in the final weeks described American jeeps everywhere, moving staff officers, medics, and supply teams with relentless efficiency. Weighing just over 1 ton, the jeep navigated rubble and mud, ensuring American divisions stayed cohesive during the chaotic collapse of Axis defenses. This mobility allowed United States Corps to encircle German units, cutting off retreat routes. The number that matters is ubiquity. Over 600,000 jeeps built by 1945 saturated every front. German commanders, like those under Field Marshal Walter Model, faced an enemy whose light vehicles enabled constant pressure. American jeeps carried artillery observers to high ground, directing fire with precision, while engineers used them to survey crossing sites on the Elbe and Danube. Routine inspections after 1,000 miles of rough driving. Captured German soldiers described jeeps as a constant presence darting through battlefields where Axis transport horses or aging trucks faltered. The jeep's ability to serve as command car ambulance or signals platform meant American units could adapt to shifting conditions without losing speed. German attempts to disrupt this mobility with ambushes or sabotage failed. Allied supply lines fed by ports like Bremen delivered fresh jeeps faster than Axis forces could destroy them. To German staff, the jeep's endless flow was a symbol of their own industrial collapse. The adversary perspective was stark in 1945. German officers, watching their lines crumble, cursed jeeps outpacing their defenses, enabling Allied encirclements. The jeep's versatility allowed American commanders to maintain tight control, shifting units rapidly to exploit German withdrawals. Captured documents revealed Axis frustration. Their reliance on mixed transport left them vulnerable to an enemy that motorized every task. The jeep's lightweight enabled it to cross makeshift bridges or ford streams, keeping American operations fluid. American mechanics, interviewed by German interrogators, spoke of standardized parts, allowing quick repairs, a luxury Axis units lacked. This logistical edge meant American divisions could sustain offensives, while German units starved of fuel and vehicles disintegrated under pressure. For American forces, the jeep was more than a vehicle. It was a tool of operational dominance. Commanders used it to visit front lines, ensuring rapid decision-making, while reconnaissance patrols pushed deep, guided by its reliability. The jeep's rugged design, with a four-cylinder engine built for durability, allowed it to operate in Germany's wrecked landscapes. Engine overhaul after 50 hours at full throttle. By May 1945, as Germany surrendered the jeep's presence in every Allied campaign, from North Africa to Berlin, marked it as a symbol of United States logistical power. For Germany, it was a bitter lesson. A small vehicle, mass-produced and flexibly used, had shifted the war's momentum, enabling an enemy to outmove and outlast them. The jeep's role from 1942 to 1945 left a lasting mark on military thought. Post-war analysts studying Allied campaigns saw the jeep as a cornerstone of American success. Under General Dwight Eisenhower's command, United States forces had used jeeps to maintain mobility across Europe's battlefields, from Normandy's hedgerows to Germany's ruined cities. The vehicle's range of 300 miles on rough terrain allowed reconnaissance command and supply units to operate where roads were barely passable. Captured German documents from 1945 frequently noted the Jeep's ubiquity, describing how it enabled American units to sustain speed and cohesion. Weighing just over 1 ton, the Jeep moved engineers, medics, and staff officers, ensuring operational flexibility. The number that matters is standardization. Over 600,000 Jeeps, built by 1945, set a new benchmark for military logistics. For Germany, the Jeep exposed a critical weakness. Axis forces under commanders like General Alfred Jodl had relied on elite mechanized units, assuming mass motorization was unsustainable. The United States proved otherwise, motorizing entire armies with standardized vehicles. German reports described American Jeeps enabling rapid redeployments, outpacing Axis units, limited by horses and scarce trucks. Routine maintenance after 2,000 miles of operation. The Jeep's simple design, with uniform parts from Willys and Ford, allowed field repairs, keeping units mobile. Post-war analysis confirmed that this industrial depth, producing vehicles faster than they could be destroyed, gave the Allies a decisive edge. German attempts to replicate this with their own light vehicles failed, as Allied air raids crippled Axis production. The human perspective lingered in post-war accounts. American veterans described Jeeps as indispensable, carrying them through mud, snow, and rubble to deliver supplies or evacuate wounded. German prisoners interviewed after the war recalled the Jeep's constant presence, a symbol of an enemy that never slowed. To them, it represented an industrial might that Germany fighting on multiple fronts could not counter. The Jeep's ability to serve multiple roles, command, car, scout, vehicle, ambulance, meant American planners could assume mobility in every campaign. Engine overhaul after 50 hours at full throttle. This flexibility reshaped military doctrine, showing that a small, standardized vehicle could amplify an army's reach. The Jeep's legacy extended beyond the war. Post-war militaries studied the United States' approach, recognizing that mass production and standardization could turn light vehicles into strategic assets. The Jeep's presence in every theater from North Africa to Germany proved that logistical depth could decide campaigns. For analysts, it was a lesson in industrial power. A nation that could produce and deliver 600,000 Jeeps could sustain operations on a scale opponents could not match. The Jeep, simple yet versatile, became a symbol of Allied victory, its endless numbers and rugged reliability, reshaping how wars would be fought.